welcome to episode 2 of Post-Traumatic Thriving. I am Dr. Randall and I'm here with Tanya Brown. Good
Hi,
to see
everyone.
you, Tanya.
Likewise.
Yeah. And episode 1 was epic in my mind because we kind of got to know both of you from a different perspective. Both JC, our friend and guest, who I've known for a while, and your story is one of the most mind-bending stories I've ever heard. And we're really privileged. I think you probably can see we're privileged to have JC in the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's well, we'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. So
And then
I'm staying quiet.
Yeah, and of course I've known you for years too, Tanya, and you know, kind of a different
28
dimension.
years.
Getting to know you better too. So last time on episode 1, we started with JC. Let me back up. On episode 1, we started with you, Tanya. This time I'm going to start with JC and talk about the day you got your SAT and take us as far on that wild ride as you want to go.
All right. So yeah, that Saturday, the envelope came in the mail and I knew that I was going to smoke some weed and drink some beers later on. So I made the conscious decision to save it until Sunday night. Sunday night was when I go back into my schoolboy mode and prepping, and I never got that opportunity to open up the envelope. And the reason why is because later on that evening, my house basically got raided. I got handcuffed, thrown into the backseat of a cop car, and I never had the opportunity to open up that envelope.
Oh, no.
2 weeks into juvenile hall, I got an opportunity to call home and talk to my family. And my oldest sister, she had opened up the envelope. And the reason she opened up the envelope is because a few days later, I had already started to receive college offers. I did so well on my SAT scores that colleges were already extending the olive branch, asking me to come. And while I was in juvenile hall, oftentimes I thought back about what if I had opened the envelope that morning? Would things have been different? Or what if that envelope would have come the day before, which is the day I committed my offense? And if I would have seen my scores, I knew that I would have been in a college somewhere, and I probably would have never done what I did later on that night. And so I live with that, knowing that my life could have been something totally different. The experiences that I had to live through, I'm not going to say suffer through, but the experiences that I've lived through may not have happened had I had opened up that envelope or had it come sooner. But nevertheless, I am the type of person that looks for a silver lining no matter what the situation is. And here I am at 17 and I'm sitting in the back of a cop car, not knowing what my future would hold.
Yeah.
Wow.
So tell us about the offense. Tell us what you're comfortable sharing about what happened, what went down.
Yeah, absolutely. Me at 17, being in love, boys, hormones, teenagers. And, I had a girlfriend that I think, and again, I love the title, post-traumatic thriving. And we talk about trauma. My girlfriend, trauma-ridden, my childhood, trauma-ridden. There's this thing called trauma bonding. And a lot of times when people are broken, it's easy for them to pair themselves or attach themselves to another broken person. Right. Not realizing that two broken people don't make a whole, but I was in love. I met her at 16. I thought that this was going to be my wife and my partner, and we're going to have kids and baby, happy ever after. And she had an unprocessed trauma. I had unprocessed trauma. She was surviving a lot of childhood sexual abuse, a lot of physical abuse. And I never wanted to talk about it with her because it was too close to my own abuse. And so I was like, nah, that's your stuff. Long story short, there was an idea that was hatched, a plan that was hatched to rob her house. The abuse was coming from the hands of her stepmother. And it originally, when the idea came up, it was 3 of us. All of us were teenagers. I was just turned 17. My girlfriend was 17 and my friend was 16. And this idea was hatched to, a robbery to scare her stepmother. So we thought. Not realizing that my girlfriend had other alternative motives. And so the 3 of us, we hatched this plan to go in and tie someone up and take some stuff and leave. That was the plan, or so we thought.
Right.
And at 17, December 1st, that's what we did. We went into this residence. The door was left open. My girlfriend brought all of this, the tape and the rope, and We went in, we ransacked the place. We tied my victim up, Ms. Betty, and we stole guns and jewelry and whatever was in the room. Me and my friend got into the car, left, went back to my house. You know, when I left, could hear my victim breathing. She's still talking. So thinking, okay, we did what we came to do. And so, yeah, that night, everything was kind of in slow motion. And when we entered the house, we entered this residence, we had this plan, thought it was going to be an in and out type of deal, which it really was. Even though the time slowed down in that moment, there was this one moment that I really, really remember crystal clear. And it was when I was walking up the stairs to where Betty was. And I had this moment where I froze. And that fear, you know, the saying, this shouldn't do this. This is a bad idea. I had that moment. Mm-hmm. And I can remember the hand of my friend on my back, like pushing, like go. And I'll never forget that, because I feel like that was a moment I knew something inside was like, turn around, stop. Yeah. This is not right. You know, and I ignored that. And part of the reason I ignored it, I was concerned about what people would think about me, specifically the friend that I was with. What would he say now to everybody that was in our neighborhood? Would JC now be the punk or the BITCH? What would this narrative about me backing out of this now be? And how would I live with that in my community? Mm-hmm. So at 17, I'm thinking about like, which is going to be worse, you know? And so I stuffed my feelings, I stuffed my fear, and I went through with it, you know, and we tied her up, took her stuff, and we left. And the next morning I get a call from my co-defendant, my girlfriend. And she was telling me that Betty was on life support in a hospital, you know, with a collapsed lung, fighting for her life. No. And that didn't make sense to me at the time. I'm like, wait, what? And I can remember telling her, like, wait, what? And she was trying to engage me in this conversation about what had happened the night before. Moving forward, long story short, Betty was taken off of life support and pronounced dead. All three of us were charged with first-degree felony murder. I wasn't there at the time of the actual crime. It came out later that my co-defendant, my girlfriend, suffocated her stepmother.
Oh my gosh.
And because all three of us had participated in the robbery, according to the district attorney, it made all three of us guilty of the murder as well, even though me and my other co-defendant, we weren't there at the time.
Wow.
So let me just interject for a quick question. Had you ever committed a crime like this before in your entire life?
No. I think before this, the only thing that I've ever probably done was take coins to play video games at the arcade.
Okay.
You know,
kind of
innocent.
petty
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, right. Yeah. So this is really out of character.
This is out of character.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Tell us more.
And it's so out of character for me. And I just feeling so because I wanted to be accepted. And I feared what other folks thought about me. I did something that I knew was wrong, that devastated so many people. My immediate victims, Betty and her family, everyone that cared about her, the devastation that I caused that community, my own family, myself. And then I was a coward at 17. I couldn't stand up for what was right because I was too concerned about what other folks thought about me. And that's something that it's still hard for me to carry that and to just admit that. And so when I say that I would rather be hated for who I really am, my authentic self, I mean it. I would rather you hate me for me being me, comfortable in my own skin, speaking my truth, versus me being a fake and a phony to make you like me.
Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're in the back of a squad car, and had you ever been in a cop car like that?
Never. And so, mind you, Friday, the morning that I made this comment sitting in my kitchen windowsill to both my two sisters and my dad, I'm the only one in this family that has not been incarcerated. Only one that has not had handcuffs on. And
there you are.
And there you are.
There I am.
Can we, that is just incredible. I mean, in terms of just the profound sadness of all the way around. I think you described it well with your victim, with the victim,
Mhm.
with her family, with your family, the community, and yourself. I want to switch gears briefly and switch to Tanya. And Tanya, just ask this infamous date, June 12th. What happened in your home?
Oh, I just got a visceral feeling. It was 6:30 in the morning, and it was actually the next day. Nicole and Ron were killed on the 12th. On the 13th at 6:30 in the morning, I heard screams that it was like every horror movie put into one voice and coming down the hallway. And I'm not a morning person, like nothing wakes me up, and this woke me up. And I opened up the door.
So you're at home.
I'm at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like,
Your parents' house.
yeah. I had moved from San Diego back home. And I opened up the door and I heard Denise in the adjacent bedroom where her son, my nephew, Sean, slept. And she was just sitting on the bed crying. Like, I get,
Yeah.
how can you not feel it right now? I
Exactly.
saw you feel it. Right. And I said, what's the matter? And she goes, Coco's dead. And I'm like, Coco, because that's the nickname that the kids gave Nicole. And I said, Coco, who? And she's like, Nicole, your sister. I was in such disbelief that I couldn't wrap my brain around it. And the first thing out of my mouth was, that can't be. You just saw her last night. So the message there is that embrace the people that you see that last night, because it could be the very last night that you see that person the very last time. I didn't go to the dance recital. I didn't want to go to another darn dance recital. And now kind of like the shoulda, coulda, wouldas with you opening up your SAT scores, that went through my head. Like I should have gone to the dance recital. I could have done this. I would have done that had I shown up. You never know. The trajectory could have been totally different. And I just remember going down our long hallway to the kitchen. And I just saw my mom as if the spirit, she was white. I mean, she was white anyway, like really white anyway, but she was like, the spirit was just like taken out of her. I had never seen anybody so vacant in my entire life. And I asked her, I said, Mom, is it true? I go, is this happening? And she couldn't answer. And then I went to my mom and dad's master bedroom, and I just saw my dad in the bathroom with his forehead on his, and it was the first time that I ever saw my dad cry. My dad.
Oh yeah.
And it was the first time. And I just remember he put his forehead on his forearm, and he was just pounding the bathroom counter. And I said, Daddy, is it true? And he goes, yeah, it's true. And then we started getting calls, and then our neighbors said, turn on the TV, and there everything was. And it was very, very surreal. And I remember standing in the living room, and my mom was holding my hand, or I was holding hers. And she just saw Nicole covered with a white blanket, and she was squeezing my hand, and she goes, that's my kid. And I'll never forget that. And I think, excuse me for feeling, but no, don't, I'm not sorry for feeling. I encourage it.
Yeah.
But it brought something to my heart that no matter, every time we see the news, there's always, a body covered with a tarp, whether it's a white sheet, a yellow tarp, or a blue tarp, right? No matter how bad that person is, there's a family behind that person. And ever since that day, I've always been so sensitive to like really acknowledging that. And and then neighbors started coming in immediately. Helicopters started, flying over our house. And still today, there is still a little bit of PTSD, because every time there's a helicopter hovering over, whether my mom and we were walking at the harbor, if there was like Coast Guards, hovering, we both it brings us back to that time, because we didn't have one helicopter. There were like 8 helicopters, 9, 10, a dozen, like hanging over
circling
our
your house.
Yeah, all the time. We had to have security guards around our house. We were getting death threats. Thank God we lived in, behind a gate, which was good. That saved us, because we had a lot of protesters. We had a lot of supporters. But at the end of the day, that it was our private lives were gone. And like what I was saying, earlier, where we were beach people, and we still are. We're not like another family that we know up in LA. We're beach people, very simple. And now it was like, God, we can't even exit our own home to go to the grocery store without being, bombarded with someone or something.
Wow. You just said something, because I've known your family for decades, and I didn't know there were death threats.
Oh, yeah.
That's news to me.
Oh, yeah.
Can you share a little more about
Oh,
that?
like, we're going to come after you.
For what?
Just because it was a racial issue at that time. It was a
okay.
racial issue. How dare a black man take over a white girl? Another white girl took over a black man. And, and it was like, we didn't see color at all. Like what I was saying, behind the scenes earlier, where it's like, my mom, and I'm sure you remember the piano that we had, right? Where we had, oh my God, we have friends of all races, all nationalities. And
well, your home was the hangout for anyone.
It was
and
for
everyone.
anyone. So for us to have seen that, I mean, it's like OJ wasn't black to us. He was family,
Right.
And so for us to have received all those hate letters and emails and, I mean, we had security guards.
That's crazy. Cause I have sat at the kitchen table with your family, and zero race. It was the loss of your sister, of a daughter, which under any circumstances is just impossible to fathom.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how people take this twist.
They do. Yeah. And they did. And it got so bad that my parents were like, they were actually encouraging Denise not to go travel because it got that bad. Wow. Where it was like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
scary time.
I know that's a rough memory, and thanks for sharing that. I want to kind of go back to you, JC. So you're in the back of a squad car after this crime. It must have been a double shock that you're in a cop car, and that the victim of a crime you had no idea was harmed.
Yeah.
And yet you're off to incarceration. Talk to us about the trial and what happened. Those days ahead.
Absolutely. Before I answer that question, Tanya, I just want to say my heart, I'm feeling it.
I feel it without you even saying it.
As someone who has perpetrated harm, and to be sitting across the table from a survivor of that harm, you represent my victim's family. And when I hear you,
it's okay.
You want to take a break, JC?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
Okay.
We'll be right back.
sorry, folks, sorry.
No, don't apologize. Don't apologize.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna start. JC, that's a tough thing to sit here talking about, and I, thanks for taking a break. I think we kind of all needed it.
Yeah.
So if you're okay, I like what you in terms of what you're comfortable with, just share more of whatever part of your story you're happy, okay with telling them about.
I forget the question that you actually.
I do too.
You posed to me.
I was asking about we've covered the crime with both Tanya and you. Now you're a kid. You're a 17-year-old kid with a brilliant SAT score. Why don't we start with that phone call when you're in juvie hall and having your sister telling you what your SAT score, and then, from there.
Yeah. That was
sister Tanya?
No, I have one of my sisters. The oldest one is named Talisha.
Okay.
The other one, the youngest, is Tina.
Okay.
Okay.
And so
Lots of T's.
And my brother's named Tony. How we got James out of this equation, I don't know.
Fair enough.
But it was bittersweet. it was really bittersweet hearing, one, that I did really well on my SATs, but two, it was painful to hear that I was getting acceptance and offer letters from universities.
And you're sitting there incarcerated.
And I'm in a juvenile hall.
Wow.
You know, went through arraignment, and arraignment was really interesting for me too at 17, because the prosecution during that time, they were seeking a death penalty in my case. And I remember during our arraignment being in shackles, and when a district attorney was saying what he was going to try to pursue in the case, I reached over and I tugged on my attorney's jacket.
Mhm.
I was like, did he just say death? Like, did he say death penalty? It rattled in my head. And to me, I'm still a kid. I'm a 17-year-old child, and you're talking about killing me. And something inside of me internally, a switch was hit. And I knew then something has got to change. My approach to incarceration, even at juvenile hall, I knew I had to change and be better. And going in, I was still very optimistic and hopeful that I owned that I did commit a robbery. I took stuff that didn't belong to me. I had no issues owning what I did. But when it came to being charged with a first-degree murder, that's where I took an issue with. And I was thinking at 17, okay, I'll be in juvenile hall for a couple of weeks, and they'll figure out that I wasn't there, or whatever much time I'm gonna get for the robbery.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can go on about my life, go back to school, and that just didn't happen, you know. And so I was tried as an adult at 17.
Wow.
Which was a game changer, meaning that you can give me a life sentence, you know, and I could die in prison. And so when the death penalty was taken off the table, the prosecutor was looking for life without the possibility of parole at 17. And all of this didn't make no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was in juvenile hall, they have education programs there. And so for the first time in my life, when I was in that cell and all of these things were stripped away from me, my car, the little money I had in my pocket, I had no more weed to smoke, no more beers to drink, and no more girls to kind of hide behind. I was alone for the first time in my life, and I had to define myself for myself. Up until this point, I let others define me. Friendships that I wanted or people I didn't want to disappoint drive my behavior. And that wasn't there in that cell. It was me and a little plastic cot and my thoughts. And a lot of the thoughts was fear and concern, you know. And school, I went back to my love of education. It's the one thing that grounds me. And I got my GED within weeks of being in juvenile hall.
Wow.
And their practice then was, after you get your GED, you get locked in your cell until the end of everyone else is out of school. And I took offense to that. I was like, man, this is punishment. And so one of the staff, the supervisors there, said, hey, why don't you draft a proposal and see if you can get some type of college correspondence courses started. At the time, 17, I didn't know what a proposal was. Like, what are you talking about, a proposal? And so he helped me draft this document and helped me shoot it up the chain of command. And they have a college correspondence course in the juvenile hall that I was in. Cool story, really quick, side tangent.
Yeah.
Very cool story. About 2 months ago, I was on a call with this attorney, and she was learning more about the program. So my current job where I'm at now, and unbeknownst to me, she is the director of the in custody education college program at the juvenile hall that I was in.
Wow.
She picked up the seed that I planted, and now this juvenile hall has face-to-face instruction. And so when I was telling her about my experience, she was like, you're the guy. She had heard about me. This is over 25 years ago.
That's a
She
legacy.
had heard about someone writing a proposal and getting just the correspondence courses, and now it's on a whole nother level.
Wow.
That was a cool moment for me.
How many
for
people
sure.
you saved, and you probably will never meet them,
Never
but
even
you
meet
could
them.
only imagine.
Yeah.
Even meet them.
So let me
That's a
ask
great
you,
story.
let me ask you, JC, about your trial. What tell us about the trial?
Trial was a shit show. Trial was, and this is a problem. When we try young people as an adult, I'm sitting in trial, and trial I think lasted maybe a week and a half, 10 days or so. And even all of the hearings before trial, all of these preliminary hearings, to sit there at 17 and now I had turned 18 and still not have a clue legalese language when you got the judge, the district attorney, the defense attorney talking all of these codes and numbers and to sit there and have really no clue what that means to me in my life moving forward.
Right.
It's not broken down to a language that a young person can understand. And so I'm agreeing to everything that the attorney is telling me, like, yeah, just you want to do this, you want to do that. And I'm agreeing, not really knowing or being aware of the impact that what I'm nodding my head to is going to drastically affect the next 2 or 3 decades of my life.
Wow.
And so went through trial. I was really optimistic going through trial because I thought that, I'll get a chance to tell my story, my side of what happened. Was advised not to testify. We had evidence from my girlfriend's friends saying what she wanted to do to her mother. And she did exactly what she told her friends she wanted to do. And the judge wouldn't allow us to present the evidence.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
And so I had evidence literally that could have cleared me from the murder charge. And it was never allowed to be presented to the jury.
Oh my God.
How'd
And
that
I
make
can
you feel?
Yeah, my gosh.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
When that happened, my defense attorney leaned over to me and said, "You're fucked." My own defense attorney, when the judge said, "Nope, we're not going to allow you to present that."
Oh my God.
And that's when I felt like, oh, the bottom has just fallen out. I'm going to be locked up for a while.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm going to come back to you, JC, in a second, and we'll get to your verdict. But I'm going to go to you, Tanya, and the days after, and then tell us a little bit about the trial from your perspective of your sister, Nicole Brown.
So here I am. It took me about a year and a half for me to understand, like, that somebody who says, "I love you, I will protect you," during, a wedding ceremony, can kill somebody. So I was 24 when I was going through this, and it took me about a year and a half for me to go, wow, he did do this. And I think it was when the DNA was presented, because DNA doesn't lie. And supposedly Simpson has like this really rare blood type that, they mentioned, and I don't remember the numbers, but I just remember sitting in the court. I didn't go every day. I went during the pre-trial every day. We would wake up like at 5 o'clock. My dad would schlep the girls and mom up to the courthouse, and they're older at this time. Mom's 65, dad's in his 70s, and so it wasn't an easy time for anyone, waking up at 5 o'clock, driving to, downtown LA, and then sit in court and listen to how, your son-in-law, who basically wasn't even a son-in-law, it was a son. He was Uncle OJ to me. He was family. He wasn't, anything other than that. And just sitting in court, in pretrial, just going, I just remember sitting in the benches, just going, what the heck is going on? Like, what it's so surreal, because you got to understand, this is a family member. It wasn't a stranger that did this. So here you have, OJ's kids, his older kids, Justin and Arnell on one side. You have Eunice, his mom. You have his sisters. Everybody who I grew up with since I was 7 years old. And, and then Bob Kardashian, I've known Bob and Chris for, since I was like 7, 8 years old. So it was just a very surreal. I just remember sitting in there just going, okay, what's going to happen? Kind of like you, like, what's going to happen? Like, what is this? I've never been in a courtroom before, I think at that time, I don't even think I ever got a parking ticket.
It sounds like you're taking the shock and reliving it every day.
Yeah.
Completely uncertain what's going to happen, completely in shock about this new environment. And the fact that people that you grew up with, were friends with, family with, are now, there's a divide.
There's a total divide.
Yep. It sounds like a shit show for both of you.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, really.
It really was.
Yeah.
On 2 different levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
So JC, I'm going to go back to you, man, and ask about the verdict in your case and your reaction to it.
Yeah, my optimism had waned, and I felt that. I'll say this. So 2 things. One, when I got the verdict, I wasn't surprised. There was these subtle things, I think, throughout my trial that was like, man, that don't feel right. What was said and what was being objected to and sustained, it's like, something is going awry and my life is on the balance here, you know?
Yeah.
And as the days went on and I'm going back to the housing unit and I'm thinking about everything that was said and processing it, I'm like, oh, this is not looking good. This is not looking good. And then when we got the verdict, I think my jury deliberated. It was, I want to say a day and a half. You know, so I thought that my attorney was like, well, that's good. They didn't come back the same day. Maybe they're pondering some things and seeing the threads that don't make sense in this case. And they got that guilty verdict, and it's like, uh-oh, you know, and because I was already in the county jail with offenders, which I call them, you know, and they were already lacing me and telling me about what to expect next. You know, you get found guilty, there's going to be a sentencing phase, and you can get life without, and you're going to go to the pen, and you're going to be there forever. Like all of these narratives I was getting bombarded with back in the housing unit. And still, to be honest, at 18, I didn't quite understand what it meant.
Yeah.
Wrapping your head around that. So what was the verdict?
The verdict was 25 years to life.
Wow.
And during my sentencing phase, my district attorney, he was seeking life without the possibility of parole. And I remember the judge saying, young man, the person that I see before me, and he had all of my grades, he had all of these letters from community members, coaches, all of the stuff I had been involved with in my community and I did a lot of good stuff.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Of course.
All of this, the judge now had in his hand, and he was looking at this packet that my attorney had put together. And it didn't make sense to the judge how someone who was a straight A student, you know, aspirations to go to college and do these great things, is sitting in his court being sentenced for first-degree murder robbery. Right. And so he said that I believe that you are redeemable. That's what the judge said.
Wow.
I believe that you are redeemable. And so therefore, I'm not going to give you the maximum in this case, which is life without the possibility of parole. Instead, I'm going to give you 25 to life and run the other charges concurrent. And so that's what he did. And off of the 25 years to life, I served 22 years.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that 22 years, but I want to ask you, Tanya, about the verdict and your response. You were in the courtroom, if I remember right.
I was in the courtroom, and I have sweaty hands right now just thinking about it. I just remember sitting there. It's kind of how I like to describe it. It's like you're going up this roller coaster, right? The initial incline, and you're just like waiting for the drop, and that incline is like taking forever. And I just remember sitting, holding the bench, and just everything just kind of coming into place. And there was a deputy who was manning the door, and the verdict was read. And I was just like, okay, can I go? I looked at her, I said, can I leave? And she goes, you can't leave the courtroom. And I said to our brother, Rolf, and I said, Rolf, I need to get out of here. It was like the anxiety that it was like, I'm getting a visceral feeling right now because of it. It was just like the anxiety, the anticipation is done. The anxiety and the adrenaline is kicking in, but I wanted to leave that courtroom and have this whole thing behind me. I wanted to it's over, it's done. And my mom's infamous saying is, it is what it is. We've got to let it go. It is what it is. If we can't control it, we've got to accept it. And that's, I could not wait to get out of that courtroom fast enough. And the deputy, I'm like, I was about to fight with her. I'm like, why can't I leave? I need air, but you don't know what a courtroom is like. I mean, you do, but the general population, we do, right? But the general population has no idea the dynamic that is going on in that courtroom. Things are said and you're like, I don't understand these codes. I don't understand, all the legalese, right? That you had mentioned. So, it's very intimidating.
It is.
It's very intimidating, and it's daunting, and it's scary, and it's anxiety provoking. And I pray to God, I don't ever have to serve on a jury panel.
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
It's very, that's, that could easily be a trigger for me, a PTSD moment, thank God I haven't gone through that.
Right.
Can I ask something really quick?
You
Randy?
sure can.
Because I think it's a misconception that when folks go to trial, they think that it brings closure, and it doesn't. getting that, whatever the verdict outcome is, it doesn't bring closure.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
And so people walk away thinking that justice has been served, but it doesn't do anything to mend or help heal the hurt that was caused.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's so true. You know, people have come to me and they say, you know, and I'm sure they have with you too in the past, where it's like, you know, I'm so sorry this happened to you, or I'm so, you know, all the apology is like, oh, it must have been so hard for you. And I'm like, yeah, but my life is totally different. Your life is totally different. And it's like what you were referring to, you know, in the past, where it's like, it's the new normal, and it doesn't ease the pain. The pain never goes away. It's just, you learn how to live life in this new normal, you know? Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Outstanding, profound point, JC. So I want to ask you, you hear this verdict and you're taking a drive home to your new home, we'll say. Talk about that drive and what your new world looked like.
Oh my God. That ride, we call it the Gray Goose, the bus ride from the county jail to prison, San Quentin State Prison.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All of the movies that I've seen, the stories that I've heard, I'm going to the infamous, famous San Quentin State Prison.
Right.
And that ride over, you talk about afraid. And I think when I went to San 18, going on 19, and I remember the hard plastic seats of this bus, my feet and shackled, my waist shackled to my hands, and my heart pounding out of my chest. I'm afraid. I think I'm gonna die in prison. You know, all of the stories that I've heard, and so, okay, you got to be tough. You really got to put the mask on now. And we pull up, and you know, we step off of this bus one by one, and this correctional officer asking us our name and what county you from and who do you roll with, what gang are you affiliated with, do you need to be in protective custody, PC? And I'm answering these questions rapid fire. Okay, now you go over there, and then you go over there, and they're already segregating us.
Oh wow!
You know, right, a fresh thing right off the bus, segregating us. And it went from stripped butt naked. Folks who have been in custody, I call it the dance. So when we have to do strip searches, to raise your hand, turn around, squat, cough, let me see your heels, the dance. And so we do I do this dance, you know, with this officer and a whole line of folks getting off of this bus. And then they tell us to follow this yellow line on the floor to go get our clothes. Now we're all butt naked. You know, we're butt naked. Folks are covering up their privates, and we're trying to
must be humiliating.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
Understatement. Yeah. And there's women walking. It was just
that's
a mess.
awful.
You know, and so just the embarrassment, just you know. And so I get the clothes, and they give me my orange. It's called the fish kit. When you first get to prison, you get a little toothbrush and a little toothpaste and your uniform, and they assign me a cell. And we're walking in a group, and the officer is dropping folks off at their housing units now. And then they drop me off at mine, and they give me a cell. And I have no idea how to get to the cell. They take me to the housing unit, and it's San Quentin, and it's 5 stories high, the housing unit. And I'm on the 5th. My cell was 5C31. And I'm looking, and I got my little fish kit in my hands. And everyone knew that I was out of place. I just looked like I had no idea how to get to the 5th tier. And so one of the trustees said, hey man, what's your cell number? I told him 5C31. He's like, okay, you got to go to the stairs and go up them. I didn't even know where the stairs was. Like, man, where's the stairs at? And so he points me to the direction, and I go up these stairs, and I start looking down over the rail. I'm like, holy shit, if someone throws me off of this, I'm going to die. So now I'm clinging, holding on my hand. I got my fish kit in one hand, and I'm holding on to the rail because I don't know what people are going to do. I'm thinking about my safety.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the numbers on the cells, and I see the further I walk down this long hallway, there's a person that's clearly of alternative lifestyle, and they are talking to someone in a cell, and I'm now trying to count ahead, like, oh, that's right around 31. I'm like, oh man, I hope that's not my cellie. Like, I don't want that to be my cellie. And the closer I got, I was like, oh, okay, they talking to someone in the cell. And so I approached, I was like, hey, excuse me, I'm supposed to be moving in the cell. Long story short, I got in the cell, had this OG cellie who had been doing time for a while. And I was very guarded coming in because my attorney said, don't talk about your case. We have an appeal. Don't want to say anything that's going to hurt you later.
Mm-hmm.
And my cellie was like, hey, youngster, what you in there for? And I was like, a crime. How long you got? A long time. So all of my answers was very, and he was like, man, what's wrong with you? I told him, like, man, I've been advised by my attorney not to talk about my case.
Yeah.
He was like, man, tell me what you in here for, man. And so I told him, first degree murder. He said, what they sentenced you to? I said, 25 to life. And this is literally the first 5 minutes of our conversation. He says, if you need to make a weapon, what would you make it out of right now? I don't know. I had no clue.
Wow.
Scary.
I have no clue, and my cellmate, then he said, you're a lifer. You're going to be here for a while. If you have a life sentence, we don't go home. Everyone with a life sentence, the governor said, the only way a lifer will be released is in a pine box. So you're going to probably die here. You need to know how to survive here.
Wow.
And he began to teach me how to survive prison life.
Wow.
So let me ask you, JC, what's OC? Was that
OG?
OG. What? Tell us what that is.
So OG, like original gangster, someone that like earned their stripes. They put in work and a reputable,
Yeah.
And so he recognized that I was a fish. That's what they call new guys coming in, fish, first termer. And he didn't have to do what he did. And thank God that he did, because the education that I got from him, and his name was Ajane, the education that I got from him, it really helped me to navigate the next 22 years.
Okay. So I want to just kind of pause for a second and kind of share with everybody where we've kind of gone so far in the story, because in the post-traumatic thriving framework we use, I think you both know this, is we talk about life before the trauma, what it looked like. Tanya's started out really idyllic, got a little, more than a little crazy, in college. You're talking about thinking of suicide. JC, you're living in the Bay Area in horrific, one thing I really passionately feel about is all kids should be cared for.
Yeah.
All kids should never go through the BS you went through. And you're going through it. But there's life before the trauma. And then you have this bright future with God's given you a brilliant mind. I know that. And then the next stage is the dive stage. The trauma hits, the shock your family experienced, the shock you felt at the realization of the crime from both perspectives. And then we're talking right here about the utter pits of hell, the dive stage. And it goes dive, survive, and thrive. That's what we talk about in this podcast all the time is, okay, what did life look like before the trauma? What was the trauma? The trauma was horrific. We had to take a moment. We're talking about real stuff. This isn't a movie. These are real people from both ends of the spectrum getting slammed with the shock. Am I right so far?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the shock it's a double shock. The shock that your sister's murdered, the shock that you're convicted of murder, this shocking sentence, 25 to life. That's not small potatoes. And you this all happened when you're a 17-year-old kid on your way to college. That's shock. Yeah. And then the dive stage of your new life in prison. And then the next question I got is, Tanya, the drive home from the courtroom and your new life at home with your parents, a little bit about that.
To tell you the truth, I don't even remember the drive home. I remember after when we left the courtroom, we went up to Gil Garcetti's office. And I just remember my mom sitting there very stoically, as she always did, and class act, my parents' class acts, just sat in there very stoically, very quietly. And she said, okay, girls, we've got to go back home because he's a free man and he could go and take the kids. So we've got to go down to Laguna. And then I remember, keep in mind too, we didn't go through the front door of the courthouse. So we didn't even see what chaos, what havoc. We didn't see the scaffolding, that we've seen, that probably all of, well, maybe not, but that a lot of people have seen, the scaffolds, the news, the people selling T-shirts and all that. We didn't see any of that. And to tell you the truth, I didn't see any of that until I saw the ESPN 30 for 30, OJ Made in America. Then I saw it. We lived it, but we didn't see any of that. So we went down, where the buses pull in. That's where we, entered and exited the courthouse. And so it was very incognito. Nobody knew what car we drove. Nobody knew. It was just the security was impeccable. And I don't know if we got an escort. I know we got an escort there. I don't know if we got an escort back home, but we just, the thing is, the main goal for our entire family, but more so, my sisters and my parents, was to keep life as normal as possible for Sydney and Justin. They were 5 and 8 when this happened. So, I mean, right? I mean, it's like trauma, it's loss, it's tragedy, it's chaos. And, but that was our main goal, just to make sure that Sydney and Justin lived a normal life. Okay. Our focus was not on what we were experiencing, what we were feeling. It was about the welfare of the kids. And, right across the street in the Monarch Bay Plaza, I remember the grocery store people, they would go, we would call them and say, you can't do that anymore. Customer service has kind of gone down the window. But back in the day, we would say, hey, listen, we're coming over with the kids. And, it was on the National Enquirer, People Magazine, all that stuff. And whenever we made the phone call, the staff would put, pieces of cardboard paper to block all the magazines. We got a lot of support, but also a lot of haters,
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Fascinating. JC, I want to ask you, you've gone home, you've got your goal, to take the best care of the kids you possibly can. I think we're going to leave this episode there with you. JC, I want to ask you, going back to you in prison, as you're adjusting to this whole new, I don't know if I want to call it a freak show, but must have felt like it kind of was. What was the main goal? Tanya's and her family's worrying about the kids. What was your main goal?
To survive.
Yeah.
Simply to survive, with the hope that one day I would walk out of that prison.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though everybody around me said, you're a lifer, you're going to die here.
Right.
This is home for you, young man. I did not allow people's truth to become my reality.
Right. Wow. Okay.
It's almost like you manifested your demise, which is, it took 22 years, but it happened.
Yeah. And I'll say this really quick. A lot of good stuff came in those 22 years. A lot of lives were touched and saved.
Awesome.
By me in those 22 years.
Well, that's a perfect place to leave that, because we're going to go there. But I appreciate that we've, this episode is this is the roughest thing. We could probably spend, instead of, an hour on it, we could probably spend, all week on it.
Probably.
But thanks to both of you for sharing this ugly trauma dive stage. We're gonna move on with the story in the next episode, but that's what post-traumatic thriving is all about. It's about the choice we have, given the hellhole we're in. Are we gonna dive, survive, or thrive?
The choice is yours.
That's right.
See you next time.
Thanks for supporting our podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on your favorite social media. For books, merchandise, or to donate, visit CoreIQ.com. Post-Traumatic Thriving is produced by CoreIQ, a nonprofit with a mission to teach the life skills we all need but are not taught in school. CoreIQ and the Post-Traumatic Thriving podcast are for informational purposes only and do not provide medical or mental health advice. Always consult with your licensed medical and mental health care providers.